This house has been dead and abandoned for 20 years, so why is the silence whispering my name? To hear what I heard, you need to put on your headphones right now. Outside, the forest vibrates with noise. You have the constant crunch of dry leaves underfoot, the sharp snapping of twigs, and the wind rushing through the canopy above. It is an environment thick with the sound of life. I didn't stumble onto this place. I hiked out here intentionally with my camera gear to document the structural decay of a property that the local town abandoned 2 decades ago. But standing at the edge of the property line, you feel a boundary. Taking that next step means leaving the living forest behind and entering a rotting shell where nothing survives. Creates a physical ringing in the ears. Inside, nature is swallowing the charred wooden beams. Thick vines climb the decaying walls. Yet, despite the overgrowth, there are no insects buzzing. There are no animals nesting. This lack of environmental life creates a sensory vacuum. When your brain is starved of normal sound, it leaves your mind vulnerable to whatever decides to fill the void. Moving through the narrow, vine-choked hallways forces me to step carefully. The darkness crowds in from the corners, and the tight layout makes me feel exposed from every angle. Then a faint sound cuts through the ringing. It is distinct, panning from my left ear to my right, a dry, scraping sound that forms the shape of my name. I speak out loud, mostly to hear my own voice. I tell the camera it's just the wind blowing through the dead, hollowed-out vines, an acoustic trick of the rotting architecture. I keep repeating that explanation, that it has to be the wind, because if it isn't, then I have to admit that something in this house is aware I am here. I push deeper into the structure, reaching what remains of a charred basement. This is the most isolated pocket of the ruins. Down here, the flashlight catches odd angles. The twisted debris and hanging roots warp into unrecognizable silhouettes that seem to twitch every time the light shifts. The air around me is dead still. The dust in the flashlight beam is frozen. Yet the whispering continues, and it is growing clearer. When you are isolated in the dark, and your senses deliver contradictory information, the pressure is immediate. You lose the ability to differentiate your own imagination from reality. The silence has done its job. It has stripped away my logic, leaving me exposed to the nature of this property. The sound directly behind my right shoulder clarifies. The whispers sharpen into a specific sentence. You've been here for 20 years too. A wave of ice hits my chest. This is no longer a psychological trick. I am standing in a dark room with a physical presence. I run. I sprint through the dark, the flashlight beam bouncing off the rotting walls. Everywhere the light lands, the thick vines look like they are lunging outward to drag me into the debris. The silence breaks. My heavy, panicked breathing and the crunch of breaking wood under my boots flood the room. I hit the front door and fall through the threshold, bursting back into the rushing air of the living forest. But the adrenaline hides a truth. Surviving the escape is a temporary victory. The horror has already latched on. I make it back to my car. I slam the door and lock it, sitting in the safety of the interior dome light. I tell the camera I am leaving. I convince myself that the isolation triggered a panic attack, a trick of a mind under stress. To prove it, I rewind the camera footage. I need to hear the audio to show that the only sound in that basement was the wind. I hit play. There is no wind on the recording. There is no ambient noise at all. There is only a raspy, non-human voice speaking directly into my microphone, clearly whispering my name. The entity in that house was real, and it has been waiting in the silence for 20 years.